All right, so welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. I'm, of course, Andrew, not Heather, but she does lend her name to the show. I'm joined by Greg from Witnesses.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And yeah, I just actually I know this the album Holy Water was the latest EP released by Witnesses, and that came out in July. So it's been a few months. Um, but that was the most recent thing I listened to, and it's interesting because on Bandcamp it's described as cinematic atmospheres, metal, and sparse acoustics. So I was trying to think that's really accurate because sometimes there's like that I was trying to think, is there a better umbrella term?
Right.
I mean, maybe do it's more because it's more doom metal. I feel, especially since it's the slower tempos.
No, that's right. I mean, so that those three descriptors that you mentioned are more to capture everything I do with
Gotcha.
Witnesses, right? It just so happens though that the Holy Water EP kind of ended up as a convergence. And I think people who have followed the project closely for a while or who have, people who have become fans, which is awesome, kind of saw that with that EP, like a lot of things they've heard from disparate parts kind of came together. So I think what you're touching on there is kind of a happy accident where this way that I've been describing the entire project all kind of came to bear in the EP that came out in July or June,
Yeah,
whenever
well,
it was.
it's cool. It's I always appreciate it when it's one of those things where the music that I'm going to discuss falls into my wheelhouse of things that
Mm-hmm.
I like personally. So this is one of those times where I don't really have to do a lot of work. I can just sit back and
Yeah.
uh, let sort of the music happen. And yeah, I mean, Heather and I are big fans of usually the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Slower tempo, doomy type of thing. She's huge into shoegaze,
Yeah,
um,
sure. Yep.
so it's always great to. And I know that there are other albums if people want to do a deep dive for Witnesses that are on Bandcamp. The Holy Water EP is the most recent release.
That's right. I have a new single that came out on a compilation on Halloween, and that's going to be released on Bandcamp December 14th.
Okay.
It continues in the style of the Holy Water EP, slightly faster, but not objectively fast. A little bit more mid tempo, I guess, is a better way of describing it. But same instrumentation with a special surprise in there as well. And I think to your point earlier, like it is doom metal to me. Um, I like to describe the project in as generic terms as possible. So I just say metal. But yeah, where I'm coming from is absolutely a doom metal perspective and background.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I frequently say is the only reason why most of these descriptions exist is to give people something to argue about. So
That's fair.
if yeah, I mean, so really at the end of the day it's just music, however you want to describe it. If you, I mean, not that they exist anymore, if you worked at a record shop, I could see that it's easier to catalog and categorize things. But these
Definitely.
days I would say if you enjoy any of the descriptions that either of us have mentioned so far, definitely check out the Holy Water EP because it's got a ton of that stuff. Really great music. Uh, I'm forgetting her name. I had it written down. The vocalist.
Gabby
Um,
Conan, yeah.
yeah. So it was really. I will go back and do a deep dive. Um, I listened to it once all the way through to have sort of a sense of what it was about,
Hmm?
and now I'm going to go back and kind of check out all the ingredients, so to speak.
Cool. I think you'll like the single if you like the EP. I think the single is really a continuation of that sound. I think production's a little better. Learn as you go. Um, but yeah, no, that's great. Gabby
So
is amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm a huge soaring operatic vocals. I'm a huge fan, um, and it's really good. When remind me again when the single comes out? The December
14th, I want to say.
14th.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will keep an eye out for that.
Cool.
Um, and you're in New York City.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, because that's I had wanted to bring that up because I grew that's where I grew up in New York
Oh,
City.
awesome. Okay. In which borough?
I grew up in Manhattan.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
for that's where I lived the first 18 years, and then I moved back, lived on the Lower East Side, and then
Hmm.
I was in Astoria for a while.
Yeah, I'm in Queens. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, I lived in multiple. I was on 30th Avenue for a while, right off the N train,
hmm.
and then 28th Avenue. I ended up on Ditmars. That was
Okay.
my last. That was my last spot.
Got
But
it.
yeah, when I saw that you were in New York City, I was like, I got to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place. To me, it's a very inspiring place. It's a freak show, which I love. I wasn't
Sure.
born here. I was born in Maryland,
Okay.
and moved here around 15, 16 years ago now.
Gotcha.
And I couldn't imagine being anywhere else at this point, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I do miss there are elements of New York. See, we did the opposite. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. So
Really? Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
so um, there are elements of New York that like I miss, not being able to get a good falafel at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Not that
Sure,
I'm
sure.
necessarily up at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
but I miss the that being an option.
Hmm.
Just the ease with which you could do so many things.
Yep.
It is really an inspiring place.
It is.
So
And
that
I,
is that is go on, please.
oh yeah, I was going to say you're in Alexandria, so I mean, you're not. It's not quiet where you are, by any stretch.
No,
Um,
but it's not. It's not New York City by
no, yeah.
um, and even I mean even DC is not New York City. So
No, it's not. But DC. But I'll just put it pretty bluntly, like simply from a diversity perspective. I mean, in DC, you just meet people from all walks of life. Unfortunately, I think about DC is that a lot of people are transient. They come and
sure.
they go. But New York, Queens especially, right? One of the
Hmm.
most diverse places in the United States, if not the world. Which is for me is very energizing to go out to be in Jackson Heights and to hear five languages in a span of a single block. To me, is where I want to be.
Yeah, no, it's I again there I got everything out of New York when I lived there
Hmm.
that I sort of needed, and then eventually I didn't need those things anymore. But there are
Sure,
still moments where I miss, so the food, especially the food. Um,
no question.
but yeah, I mean, it is a really inspiring place. It's a great place to be as an artist. And so now, are you? Do you? Are there gigs you're playing now? Or are there thing?
No,
Is that on the horizon?
never will be. I get zero pleasure out of performing live. I get zero pleasure out of being in a band. This project is set up the exact way that I want it to be, which is,
Perfect.
yeah, which is, you know, if there was such a thing as like alter theory for music or something like, I'm the showrunner, I hire people to contribute, and that's a great arrangement too because when you hire people, there's less hard feelings about the process. It's more
Sure.
contractual, which I find actually advantageous. And in hiring people and hiring session players, you get to say to them, "Hey, I'm hearing something like this, and it's super high level, directional." And then you can hire these brilliant people to just interpret that a certain way and elevate whatever it is you're working on. That to me is very like it's a very it's I don't know what the verb is here, but it like frees you up
Sure.
as a
Well,
musician.
it's interesting. I think as COVID continued to change the landscape of everything, it also changed production. and I
Yep.
think more people are uh, being fulfilled just by doing what you're doing.
Yep.
I don't think there's as much emphasis necessarily on playing live. Um, and really, it's as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, that's the thing. So
Exactly. And I mean, what goal would you have out of playing live? I mean, if you want to play to big audiences, if you want to go on bigger tours, that takes a ton of work. It's a huge sacrifice. Um, bands don't make much money off of it. Just getting paper cuts all over the place, whether it's clubs shaving money off merch sales. Like it's just such a hard thing to make work. Um, so,
there's a great documentary called Hired Gun,
mm,
which is basically about either studio musicians or people who get hired for someone's band.
yep.
And there's a wonderful moment where what they talk about Steely Dan,
Hmm.
who used exclusively for a while. I think after the initial band split and it was just the two leads, that they basically just worked with studio musicians.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, I should have known that. Okay.
Well, it's great because they talked about finding the guitarist who played the solo for Peg,
Hmm.
and he said that his only instruction from Donald Fagen was "think blue," and
Great.
that's where
Yeah.
he was like, just think blue, and that's where he came up with. But but yeah, it was interesting to see sort of how they were the architects. Like you're talking about, you can sort of create these great works of art, and really be in control of it, but at the same time not have as many of the drawbacks or the pitfalls that you would get. So,
Oh yeah.
but
I mean,
I think that's really good for people to hear. Like, I think I think a lot of people may be apprehensive about it, but to hear that you're doing it and that it's fun, and then you're making it work and you're making great music, um, that's wonderful.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just art as a democratic process for me is just really difficult. And there's so much upside that I think people want to do session work. If you're a skilled performer, artist, whatever, and you have the means to record yourself in your home, and someone wants to pay you X amount of dollars to cut a solo or a lead vocal, it just seems like a win-win.
Sure, sure. No, I mean, I think there are probably musicians out there who need to play in front of an audience to get
Sure.
that fulfillment.
Yep.
But I think there are a lot of people out there who don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to know that there are a lot of different routes that you can take. Um,
I agree.
and often I speak to people who, they're excited about their projects they're doing, they're recording at home, but the goal is always to get out and play in front of people.
Yeah.
So it's nice to finally talk to someone who's like, no, 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 I just want to make the music and create it, and then just put it out there and move
Yep.
on to the next thing.
100%.
Um, that's awesome. So, so yeah, and if you're curious about what that music sounds like, the Holy Water EP is out. There are also other albums. I know Four was the latest one before that. That's also out on Bandcamp. And
Hmm.
then there's the new single that'll come out December 14th,
That's right.
which I'm excited about. Um, so yeah, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me, and
Thank you.
um, and I look forward to hearing the new stuff on the 14th and going back to do a deep dive on the Holy Water EP.
All right. I hope you
But
enjoyed that.
yeah, yeah, I'm glad you're making out there making music.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate all the help and support. It means a ton.
You got it. Well, have a good one.
All right. Take care.